Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Greco, here again from the podcast bunker. And we are here with another episode of Deep Listens. I am joined, as always, by Billy, no need to hide when it's dark outside, Rothert.
You see, last time we did a podcast, I was the one in the pillow fort. Now Gino's in the pillow fort.
Gino's in the matrimonial closet so that he doesn't wake his wife up.
It's become a new podcast
The
tradition.
matrimonial closet.
So It's much less erotic than you'd hope. I'm covered in blankets in a closet.
That's what our listeners tune in for. Eroticism.
Covered in blankets in a closet.
Erotica? Yeah,
I think you could use either of the two.
either one, that's what our listeners like.
All I need you to know is that it's very warm.
Are there coats around you? Or are there
Yes.
also coats and things?
I'm
like
surrounded by coats, and I have 2 blankets on me to deaden sound. No one will accuse me of being a bad husband. However, that dark, sultry voice you heard, that deep voice, was a PhD candidate. You're still doing that, right? That's still a thing?
Yeah, as of now, it's still a thing.
Crushing it. Peter, Thunder and Lightning aren't so frightening, Busby.
That's a good one. I fear no man. The only thing I fear is sometimes I'll stare at my fists and I'm worried one day they'll turn on me.
Oh, no. You've trained them too well.
I know. But beyond that, I'm not too worried.
Well, good. As you can probably tell by this introduction, we're going to talk about Wuppo today.
Yes.
The game that Pete picked. And
I did.
If you want to get in touch with the show, leave any feedback about the games we've played or any other things, go ahead at deeplistenspod, deeplistens.libsyn.com, or deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. So, Wuppo. Pete, why don't you walk us through why you picked Wuppo?
All right. So, we've been playing a lot of games lately that have been a little bit longer, a little bit heavier. You know, some realistic, some not. And, you know, just based on where I am at this point in my life, I needed a little injection of whimsy. And, you know, there are nice things to be said about Wuppo. There are some not nice things to be said about Wuppo. But I think one thing anybody would agree on is that this is a game that has its fair share of whimsy. That's what I was looking for.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Billy, why don't you summarize Wuppo as you're wont to do?
Holy shit.
Oh, right, you didn't get too far. I can do it this time. I can do
have
it.
enough. Okay, if you want to take the burden of the 30-second summary off of my hands, go for it.
I can do it. So in Wuppo, you are a Wum. Are you named Wuppo?
I think
Do you get a name?
I don't.
You get Scallywag.
You get a name at
You
the.
get Scallywag.
You get to name yourself later on in the game,
Yeah.
but you are a Wum. Which
Actually, do you get to name yourself? Because I might have missed the opportunity to name myself.
no, it's at the very end. You didn't get far enough.
No.
But
So,
you're a Wum.
If you've ever read Shel Silverstein's The Missing Piece, basically what a Wum looks like.
Or
I was thinking more of a monad.
A monad, sweet. Throw out a Leibniz reference for everyone. Yeah, that'll really drive it home for our listeners.
I was thinking like a Kirby with his mouth shut and with little stick legs.
No feet.
No arms and 4 little stick legs.
Yeah,
like
all
you
these are fair.
draw a caterpillar or something. But
Yeah.
you were a Wum, this little round thing
Slightly less geometric, like Nyan Cat.
with you have a double jump.
Yep.
You're like an emoji that came to life.
You wear festive hats.
You do. You wear festive hats, and you live in the Wum house. It's a community living situation or some sort of apartment building, and you go about your day, and one day you go get ice cream because ice cream's great, and you track ice cream all through the Wum house, and then you get evicted.
Make a terrible mess.
Yes. And so you get evicted, and then you go on a journey to find a new home, a new place to live. And that sends you on a great adventure full of spelunkers and blumses. Blussers, Fanackers.
Yep.
A lot of
Slankhackers.
Slankhackers, I think. Something like that.
Oh,
So
many
get ready for
names.
the proper nouns.
We're
Yep.
going to try not to use too many proper nouns because this game is rife with them. I can't even pronounce most of them. This game is very much from the Netherlands.
This
lot of,
game could be very Dr. Seuss in its naming convention.
It could. Yeah. You finally come up with a good analogy, Billy.
It took us 2 years, but we got you there. So, Wuppo, this game, so from a gameplay perspective, it is a combination of a platformer and kind of a kind of a shooter, almost dual-stick shootery. It's weird.
It's got like some RPG fetch quest sort of stuff going on too.
Yeah, you can level up.
Yeah.
You get money.
You can level up? Yeah, I guess.
You level up your
Things level
happiness.
Yeah, happiness is a leveling
Happiness
up.
levels up.
And you're going to level up your guns.
Mm-hmm. Because you need
Yeah.
guns in a game like this.
Guns.
Gum Gum Gun is probably my favorite one of the ridiculous terms in this game.
That was pretty good. I like Smirt, the in-game currency.
Yeah, Smirk.
Yeah, Smirk.
One of 3 in-game currencies.
I don't know why you had to have multiple in-game currencies.
2 of them seem useless. 2 of them are useless. It's all Smirt. All about Smirt.
Yeah. Credit doesn't really do anything.
Well, it does something once, and only once. But this game, the platforming is pretty, it's what you'd expect. You're running around with WASD. It's a PC game, and you can double jump. And basically,
some minor puzzling.
Yeah, some minor puzzling. The shooting, so there's a couple interesting things I think about the design here. One is that whatever you're wearing on your head is pretty much your additional ability.
Yep.
If it's a gun, you shoot. If it's a hat with a little claw on it, you grab things.
If it's a bucket, you also shoot.
Yes. If it's a cleaning hat, you shoot little cleaning pellets and then you eat them for health.
Yep.
If it's a candle, you just candle.
You can see in the dark. But it's also pretty great if you get different outfits. You throw them on and then you look completely different depending on what you're wearing.
Yeah, the facial hair is part of the outfit.
Part of the hat. It comes with the hat. But this game's got some real charm. And the shooting I found to be... So there are boss fights and all sorts of stuff with the shooting. And the arc of the shots is really unique, I think. Like the way you shoot in Wuppo. Do you guys see the same thing or notice the same thing?
I didn't see it to be particularly unique only because it plays kind of like just any other browser-based Flash game with this mechanic in it. So I didn't find it to be that innovative.
It's strangely inconsistent though, in a minor way. The bullets don't always trace the same trajectory, it seems like.
No, this game is really one about parabolas more than anything else.
Yeah.
But
I guess that's kind of almost more realistic because if you think about it, you're like a blob with a gun kind of protruding from its forehead. So how consistent could you really be?
It's fitting in sort of the game's technology. If you think about sort of the techne of the different species, it's sort of like an ad hoc solution most of the time. The game, I'm trying to separate. So the game itself is obviously decently engineered, right? But the engineering within the game of the characters is spotty. So the fact that the gun sort of works but sort of doesn't fits in with that sort of improvisational, sort of simplistic engineering vibe.
Yeah, and I just found that because of the parabolic nature of the shots, one, it gives the sense that your gun's kind of shit.
Yeah.
It's this adorable little pea shooter.
Exactly.
2, it adds this weird, it's got a couple of things going on. The parabolas mean that because your jump is parabolic as well, and, pretty heavily so.
Our jumps are, really.
Yeah, but in some games, it can be a lot more angular.
Yeah.
A game like Super Meat Boy springs to mind where you're doing a lot more right angle jumps more than something like this. it led me to see, like, thinking of enemy shots, because they also generally follow parabolas. It made me think a lot more about whether I wanted to be in the air or not, because avoiding shots often was easier to run under them or back away from them than jump over them, which almost every game I've ever played has taught me that when something shoots at you, you jump over it, unless it's like obviously a move that you need to run under. This game, it made me
unless
constantly...
you're playing Cammy, and you just gotta get under that fireball.
Yeah. And it made me recalculate, because the double jump doesn't really give you a lot of momentum change. So if you make a bad decision about when to jump, you're just kind of stuck on your parabolic path and sometimes in the direction of bullets.
Yeah, the double jump's really about hang time more than anything else.
And with that, and some of the weapons that you're given by default are like a bazooka and a...
it's like a machine gun,
basically. Yeah. The bazooka just kind of fires one gigantic blob.
The bazooka just kind of sucks.
I like the bazooka a lot.
Really? You guys use it? I'd never used it.
Well, I found that most of the time when you're fighting a boss or some enemy, they're not vulnerable like the hits and phases where you can't. Oh?
You dropped out for a sec.
Yeah, keep going.
Am I back now?
Yeah.
Well, there's like phases where you can get in hits and phases where you can't get in hits, and I found that the bazooka, because you could still fire rapidly with it. You click every time. So it effectively was. It looked kind of the same as the pea shooter, if you just mashed the click button, or if you charged it, you could get like a big hit in, and that might have been more effective on enemies that weren't vulnerable the whole time.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I found that the bazooka had some weird like splash physics almost.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, they were super inconsistent.
Yeah, it had like this weird fluid dynamic system in this 2D game that all of a sudden I was sometimes kind of dancing in and out of range of certain bosses and just hoping that the bazooka would splash forward into them, which was interesting. I mean, it's a mechanic I've never seen in a game like this. And I came into this game expecting to hate it, and I left perplexed and smitten.
Smitten's a good adjective. Like, I didn't particularly...
One of my favorite children's stories, too.
Yeah. But I think smitten's a good... Like, you're just sort of... It wins you over with its adorableness, I think.
It is very adorable.
I'm saying a lot coming from one of the hardest critics of whimsy or cute games that we've had on this show.
I mean, I'll get to this point now, I guess. I think Undertale and Wuppo have sort of the same fault, insofar as they're both sort of in love with their own aesthetic. And you can see this sort of very self-conscious manipulation, this very sort of self-conscious maintenance of that aesthetic. But I just found it less grating in Wuppo, I guess, for whatever reason. But in either case, it's two games that sort of let their aesthetic overpower the game, I think, to its detriment at points. But Wuppo less so than as annoyed as I was with Undertale.
I can add a little bit to this, because there's like while I was researching about the game, I found that there were a couple of games that were particularly important in the conceptual design of Wuppo. One of them was Undertale.
Important for the developers?
Yeah, important for the devs. Okay. They cited games like Mass Effect because of dialogue matters to some of these NPCs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Undertale because of the you actually when we play Undertale, our NPC interactions evoke specific emotions. Like, we weren't just using NPCs as plot developers or plot movers or to get some item. We almost became emotionally invested in what our NPCs were doing. And they cited a couple games that actually one game that I really didn't expect, which was Banjo-Tooie specifically.
Specifically Banjo-Tooie?
Yes.
Like not the
Not
first
Banjo,
ones,
but Banjo-Tooie. And I mean, I understand why, because I played Banjo. I played Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, but Banjo-Tooie had this world that actually kind of fit together and made sense, whereas Banjo-Kazooie was just a mountain with these like portraits that would create worlds, kind of like a Mario game. You just jump into a painting. But Banjo-Tooie actually had more like real landscape, like the environment actually mattered, like it would fit together and make sense. And even whimsy and cute as it is, the world of Wuppo kind of flows the way you might expect it to be. If you were to be transplanted into this world, it would make sense sort of geographically where things are and how things
to a point.
Yeah, to a point. Yeah, there's some you have to do a suspension of disbelief for some of this stuff, but
there's even a late. I mean, we'll talk about sort of the late game turn eventually, I'm sure.
Yes, but it definitely gives a physical sense of place for all of these different things. Like to get to different places, you need to take trains or trolleys or shuttles or elevators in a way that in other games it might just be a fast travel or a loading screen or something.
Mm-hmm.
There are certainly loading screens in this game, but they make a point of making you sit through some, like, I'm stuck on this train, so I guess I'll talk to some passengers because I'm going to be here for a while.
And that's that fits in with Billy's point about the importance of the NPCs, and sort of a point I want to make off that as well, is there are various moments in the game where you do things that don't really have any larger significance to the main plot. Like they're just sort of, fun, tiny little vignettes that you've explored. And I mean, I don't know, that might be grating to some to think like, not that your actions are futile, but that they're not advancing the main storyline. But I enjoyed it, that there were these sort of little side bits that you could enjoy that didn't necessarily have any larger significance beyond your enjoyment of them.
Yeah, I liked getting a Blappuccino at the little...
Stupid names.
Yeah, at the little cafe, at the Blappuccino cafe, by defeating a coffee monster. I think it was a coffee monster or a cake monster.
There was, I think it was a coffee monster, yeah.
It was fucked up, whatever it was.
Yeah, well, it wasn't as bad as the ice cream monster.
Yeah, the ice cream monster was fucked up.
It was weird.
So I think mechanically, I love that happiness was your health increase. Like whenever you make someone feel good or someone gives you a compliment, like your health goes up.
Yeah.
You smile. Also, there's a weird fatness mechanic. I don't know if you noticed that.
Like just at the very beginning. I don't think I ever engaged with it after that.
You can actually eat cake and stuff, and when you eat cake, your dude gets fat. And
Does it
makes
slow your movement?
Yeah, it slows your movement, and it makes you jump lower.
I think at the beginning of the game you were fat, and then you got super skinny.
And then you work it off.
Somehow you ate a TV.
Yeah.
Like that's what made you fat.
And then some dude comes and jacks your TV.
Yeah, he steals it.
I thought that the adventure might take me to reclaim my TV, but I did not get it back.
Well, you
never do.
Back for it.
You meet the guy, but he doesn't give it back.
Can you buy it off him, Billy?
Oh, but you can shoot him and then he gives you money.
What?
Yeah, I shot him.
You shot that guy?
Yeah, I shot that guy, and then he said, "Fine, I'll pay you."
He stole the TV, man.
TV.
He got shot.
So he paid me a bunch of money.
What
for
the
my,
fuck?
For my TV. Yeah, dog.
That's how Billy don't play, man.
Wuppo comes in just like, what the fuck you doing with my TV?
I run this. Y'all just live here.
Did your happiness go up when you shot him, or was it just money?
Just money.
It's all in the game.
Strictly business.
Nothing personal.
Game, no game. So, I guess with that in mind, there's not too many other mechanics going on in Wuppo. There's some light puzzle solving, but the puzzles are kind of specific to each puzzle. There's not really repeated mechanics that much.
Like another excellent game, Ocarina of Time, fishing plays a central component.
Fishing, magnetism, underwater levels, all sorts of stuff.
There's an underwater level here.
There's a big mix.
So, Wuppo, Oh, there's one other mechanic I wanted to cover, which was the film reels. I don't know if you guys
Yes.
engaged with those.
I
too
did.
Yeah,
much.
I watched pretty much all of them.
But those are awesome.
Just a little bit of whimsy.
I liked how this was a way for you to, one, do a collectible,
Mm-hmm.
two, provide more depth of the story,
Mm-hmm.
but you actually had a motive to do it because you would normally get money or
Happiness.
more health or more there would be some kind of actual tangible in-game benefit for you doing this. So you had a real impetus besides just being a collector or a completionist. That's, I think, the epitome of a collectible is when it actually it is optional. You don't need it. You can get through the game without it, but if you participate in it, then you can certainly have a more rich, deep story because you participated in this collectible.
I just loved that it was that the happiness being your health thing, it pays off so much more when you're just gonna sit around and watch movies with this old dude. And you're just, I know this little bit of history. I'm happier now.
I like the best part too was the one guy, the Allswider, wouldn't watch the diaries, but then the other guys would be like, "Oh, cool, somebody's diary. Let's check it out."
Oh, I didn't notice that.
The people get progressively less scrupulous about what videos they'll watch as the game goes on.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess going to the story a little bit, the moment I knew things were going to get weird was when you go to the Allswider's house.
When you turn the game on?
Well, yeah. But, I mean, as soon as you go to the Allswider's house and it said he moved, and then you have to swim underwater, and then his house is under, some water.
Yeah.
But not in a way it's an underwater house. The water stops being pulled by gravity.
Then you have to swim back up it to get out.
Yeah. It's like a bubble of air underneath.
And he moved because a parrot kept squawking at him.
Yeah, he was just like, fuck this parrot.
I better move my whole house.
And then the parrot joins you.
Yeah. I mean, the parrot's just like, no, I get it. I'm annoying. That makes sense.
This is a really weird civilization that they depict in this game. There's the Wums, who are the dominant race in this world because they are smart, I guess.
They basically have technology.
Yeah, they had the ability to innovate.
Yeah.
They have technology and they can double jump. And then the Blussers can shoot water out of their face.
A very meditative people.
And then the Splankhammers?
The Splankhackers.
They can mine Splank.
And they can shoot Splank. And Splank plus water equals expanding super material.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
It's like those tiny lizard things that you put in water.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? It's that.
It's exactly like those.
Yep.
Their entire civilization is built out of tiny inflatable dinosaurs. But there was a fourth race, the Fanackers, who look like eggplants that are angry.
Yeah, eggplants who haven't cut their hair enough.
Yeah, with little arms. Yeah. And apparently the Fanackers are assholes and tried to kill all the other races and dominate the world. But then the Wums teamed up. They teamed up with the other two.
Well, the Wums sort of realized that the other two had this synergetic ability combo. And it was the Wums noticing that gave them the edge in the war.
And to win the war, they threw all of the Fanackers down a sinkhole.
Yep.
They just chucked them fucking down there.
Which you can just jump down.
Did you guys try jumping down the sinkhole?
Yeah.
At the very beginning, now.
Of course.
I tried jumping down there 10 times. The parrot was not happy about rescuing me.
He pulled you up?
I was like, look, this is Chekhov's sinkhole.
Right.
If you introduce a sinkhole in the first act,
I'm going to jump down it.
You're going to be in it by the fifth. So I was like, let's just cut to the end here. Let me just jump in the sinkhole. And they were like, nah.
I guess we're talking about story now, right?
Yeah.
Sure. I was sort of curious how a game, as we've said, this whimsical, was going to handle what basically amounted to a genocide narrative.
Yeah.
But they sort of just were like, nope, Like we're not we're not engaging with that theme at all.
No, just too whimsical for that.
Yeah, it's like okay, then like why do that? Like, why introduce a genocide and then be like, nope, to hell with all like the implications of that. We're just gonna press forward.
Nope. It was because the whimsy beats all of it.
Yeah, I guess. Which okay,
Whimsy
the world
unites
needs
us all.
whimsy.
So you leave the Wum house. You eventually find like some sunflower people, and I murdered some. And
The Blyans.
yeah, there are other races apparently than the four they tell you are the only four that matter.
Yeah.
But the Blyans, these sunflower people, I killed a couple because they were swinging clubs, and that seemed aggressive. And then their chief did not like that.
Then you have to pay a tax.
Yeah, I had to pay for all of the lives I took,
Actually,
which was
pay
fair.
a reparation, which is
You can refuse. You don't have to pay it.
I paid it.
You paid it?
I
I
felt
refused.
bad about the murder.
if you
I said-
refused, do you have to just murder him in cold blood again?
No, he's just like, all right, well, help us kill that rock.
Okay.
And you're like, all right.
I like that their racial trait is wanting to kill rocks. They just hate them. They hate rocks, and they want to kill all of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you find these the sunflower people, blussers,
Oh, the Blyans.
the Blyans, and then you go underground. You find some sort of altar, and you need to put on the altar one totem of each of the four dominant races. So you have a Fanacker helmet you can find from a dude who's like deeply afraid of Fanackers coming back.
Yeah.
And you kind of convince him that everything's going to be okay, and then he gives you the helmet. The blusser thing. What is the blusser thing?
It's a bucket.
Oh yeah, there's a bucket, and then you get a piece of splink, and then you stand on the fourth part of the altar.
Did anybody ever try spitting water on the splank?
I did not.
Neither did I, which like seems obvious in hindsight that I should have at least tried it.
That probably would have just beaten the game right there. Just
Right, the game just explodes.
hot combo.
Your laptop bursts into flames.
But you then kind of get introduced to this underground area where there's clearly a more technologically advanced race that has left a bunch of stuff. But the game doesn't go into it quite yet. You fight a boss. And you eventually work your way back to the Wum house. And Carlos, the keeper of the Wum house, lets you back in for a couple days. And in those couple of days, I assumed the identity of the dude who kept up like a clock in the attic.
The Carillon.
Yeah, Caroline.
Yep, I learned the virtue of staying in a hot tub.
Yep. Time moves faster.
That was pretty great.
Yep.
And
You hear some stories from a local genius.
Yep. And
The
then
inventor of or I guess the one who discovered the
Splank
splank and like water combo.
built the Wum house.
Mm-hmm.
and then
Willie. Is his name Willie?
Yeah, I think so.
and then I robbed some people.
Yeah.
I
Of their
just-
Guys
Popo
who had the
chip
chip card.
Yep.
The Popo chip card.
Yeah.
So the Popo chip card. There are two towns, according to the world of Wuppo. There's the Wum house, where a lot of Wums live, and then there's Popo City, which is underground city where Wums live also.
Yep.
But
A socialist utopia.
yeah, it's like this weird capitalist socialist hybrid,
Yeah.
or like I guess it's socialism because it's capitalism plus communism. In
Yeah,
some
you
weird
earn-
ways.
Well, I mean, like, because it's weird because there are two currencies.
Yeah,
So, like, it's almost like, is that how Cuba used to operate?
I have no idea.
I know they had two currencies. You know what? Let's not start making claims about Cuba. None of us know that much about it. Unless, Billy, are you an expert on Cuba?
Well, I just ate at a restaurant called Cuba Cuba, so I feel like I'm an expert.
That's probably close. All
I
right,
had a fried plantain less than an hour ago.
all right, let's set Cuba aside. So, Popo City, socialist utopia.
Yeah, it's this underground city where they accept money, like Splank, not Splank, Skrilla. What's the
No, Spurt?
Smirt?
That's not it.
Smirt.
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 There we go.
They accept Smirt, but
So many
also,
stupid fucking nouns.
but also every action you do that benefits the city earns credit for the city.
In a completely arbitrary system where like people just pick numbers.
Yeah, just for like doing work.
Yeah, delivering newspapers,
isn't
engaging
it true
in debate,
creating
in
electricity.
City, where like Ben and Jerry's ice cream is made, that's also like an accepted currency around town.
Ben and Jerry's
in Burlington, Vermont.
It might be in Vermont. It might be Ben and Jerry's.
What a terrible currency!
I've been to the Ben and Jerry's factory in Burlington, Vermont, but I don't believe they accept ice cream or credit or smirt.
I remember that there was a town that accepted, in many cases, pints of ice cream for like under the table transactions. Like, cut your lawn? Well, hey, I've got 12. Okay, I could pay you in that. Oh, okay.
What have you became an alternative currency among drug dealers?
That's true.
Yeah, Tide.
Tide, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Was it for? I forget why it had value. There was like a specific reason for why it was worth something.
It's delicious.
Tide? Yeah, Tide.
Oh well, Tide because it has because of Tide's incredible market share, it's like a very easily recognized brand. So it's very easy to resell it. So like you wouldn't have to make transactions in money. You could use Tide, then the Tide could then be resold.
Yeah, the credit in Popo City is not quite like Tide for drug dealers. It is.
So you would like buy your drugs but pay for it in laundry detergent because just everyone needs laundry?
Yeah, and like everybody uses Tide because like Tide's the best one, I guess, or the most popular at the very least.
Yeah.
Plus, it's very easy to steal. Nobody really, like prior to becoming this alternative currency, nobody really protected Tide that much.
And just like Tide, no one protects Popo City.
From the, what are the things called?
From the Kneft.
The Kneft, yes. They're basically roaches, but with faces.
And
I guess roaches have faces.
Faces and lips, and they vomit stuff at you.
Yeah, but they eat pollution, which...
They do eat pollution, which is pretty sweet of them.
It's helpful, yeah.
But I do, like... I love that in all of the jobs in Popo City, they will pay you in smirt, and then they'll be like, here's some credit for the city, too. Great work on that. And there's, like, no distinction of jobs. Like, you don't need training for anything. They'll just give you fucking work, regardless.
And the credit is just the dude turns a key in, like, this credit machine. Like, there's no oversight. The inflation would be incredible.
And it has to be, because the whole point of credit, apparently, is to unlock expansions to the city. So the city rewards its citizens for doing good work by expanding and getting bigger. So everyone is kind of encouraged to work as best they can to provide for the city. So I jumped on a bunch of like electric trampolines to make electricity and delivered a bunch of newspapers.
Yeah, I killed a bunch of Kneft.
Yeah, I killed a bunch of Kneft. But if you do the newspaper thing enough times, like the dude who prints the newspapers tells you he wants to start his own printing press.
Yep.
Everyone's got their own little side games.
Yeah, man. Everybody's scheming in Popo City. Did you buy... So you also attempt a jailbreak.
I did not, but I know you can.
Oh, so if you achieve this jailbreak, you can buy hats that initiate you into this gang, but they cost like 1,300 coins.
Oh, no.
1,300 smirt. So I never bought one. I was wondering if you guys did, but I guess not.
No. Speaking of Tide.
Yeah, right?
I know that I saw those gangs, but I did not join them.
Yeah, you can buy, but I couldn't afford it, so I don't know what they do. That's the thing about, like, again, like, there's just so many little avenues and little side bits in Wuppo. It's nice.
Yeah, like you learn how to fish from a sad man who's just hanging out fishing and he lost his hat. You need to get it back for him.
Because the society doesn't recognize fishing as an occupation because it doesn't create credit. See, there's an interesting economic allegory going on here.
There is. And debate is valuable, but they don't...
They're shitty at it.
They're shitty at it, and you don't need to actually get results with your debate. You just need to go to the debate, and by debating, it gives you credit.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether a useful outcome was arrived at. And, like, you get more credit if you get the radio to work again. That causes credit to accrue more quickly. It's weird. It's a weird socialist / communist / capitalist. It's a hybrid of all these three ideas in weird ways. Like
it's an interesting sort of fiat system, right? Like the credit has no backing of any sort. There's nothing that gives it value. There's no reason that you even have to wait to expand the city until this arbitrary credit limit is reached, beyond the fact that everybody's sort of accepted that this is the way the system operates.
Yeah, there's this social contract, and the numbers only go up.
Yeah, you can't lose credit.
Hey, Billy, I found the society for you. The number goes up.
Oh?
And when it goes
it's all about grinding.
When it goes up all the way, the city gets bigger.
So you're telling... Well, are there ways to make it
go up faster?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you deliver newspapers or debate.
Oh, so like can I make like a credit feedback?
Yeah, and it only goes up. It only goes up, Billy.
Oh.
So after Popo City, you fight this Brevis. You fight Brevis, this giant Kneft that has gorged itself on toxic waste until it became a giant monster.
Caterpillar? Like a giant caterpillar monster, basically?
Yeah, you beat him up, and then he solves the Kneft infestation. And then you manage to drill into what turns out to be an underground society of Fnackers. You drill into the bottom of the sinkhole, basically. And
swiftly, the game goes completely fucking off the rails.
Yeah. I thought it was off the rails when I went to Popo City.
No.
But I was wrong.
That made perfect sense within the game's ecosystem. And then they just nope, disregarding that. Let's do something crazy.
So what was the weirdest thing in Fnackerville? Was it the giant face that eats mud? And promises you wishes? Because that was what made me uncomfortable.
Like just sticking out, like no preamble. You just walk across like one landscape and emerge to see a giant head staring at you from the background.
And it's not like all these other things are weird shapes, like basic shapes with eyes.
But like they make sense in like an overall framework.
Is that really so different than what happened when Dark Souls took a fucking turn and you just gotta deal with this weird snake monster?
Yes, I'm gonna say yes. It is very different. Framped is pretty weird, but nothing is quite as weird. It's like a human face.
It's just a dude.
Yeah, it's just a dude who's sticking out of mud, just like, hey dog, I grant wishes.
I like to eat mud too.
I've been here since the beginning. Feed me mud. And I'm like, what? Okay, this is a fucking weird totem creature. Yeah. Are they worshipping it?
It was also like this weird fucking lizard man who's like, hey, you know who's also been here from the beginning? Framped. Feed me anything.
Maybe it is a Dark Souls callback. I don't know. But, like, then you find an underground civilization where you can call out to, like, this ghost dimension.
We have so many, like, instantly forgettable, like, the weirdest metaphysics.
Yeah, there's
I think I've ever had introduced.
There's like a word for basically soul, and then a word for like energy, and then a word for like the corporeal body.
Yeah, like matter, energy, soul, like life or something, I guess.
Something, but
very strange metaphysics.
You meet this like light bulb monster, and he brings to life two little like cubes with arms, and then they tell you
they're the ancient ones. What was the old race in Halo?
Yeah, they're the Forerunners.
They're the Forerunners.
They're the Forerunners. They're the Protheans. They are the ancient aliens, basically, from every video game.
And they know the face. They know the face's secrets.
They do. Apparently the face, if you feed him too much mud, he vomits and it destroys your society.
For our listeners, I promise this synopsis is accurate. Like, this is the information we have, and we're transmitting it to you.
Yes. He vomits and he destroys your society. And you know what happens if he's alone for too long, Billy? Because you didn't get this far. You know what happens? He cries, and the crying causes holes to rip in the world. And he caused the sinkhole by being so lonely from apocalypsing an entire society. He cried a giant hole in the earth.
So you then have to kill him, and then fly to the... You have to kill him, kill yourself, transport to the ghost dimension.
Yes, the ghost dimension.
And then light bulb monster basically like kidnaps the face.
Yeah, he like kills him and jacks him.
Yeah.
To create a new world. What? This game's so weird.
It's super like this isn't even like an aesthetic problem either, where like the game's fallen in love with its whimsy. This is just chaos.
Yeah.
Like what? I'm trying to fit this into a cohesive narrative, and I just can't. It's gibberish.
I think you just have to be along for the ride.
Yeah, basically. At some point I was like,
sure.
there was a portion like you get a Fanacker who's like your buddy, and it turns out as a WUM you're real good at like mud volleyball.
Yeah,
and that
pretty much.
You're basically the Dikembe Mutombo of mud volleyball.
Sure. Okay.
You're just spiking things way out the air.
And that's what unites the races.
Yeah.
Is the WUM's
dominance
excellence at mud volleyball.
They're dominant. And you're just like, you've got a little Fanacker buddy, and then you just like straight murder a bunch of them.
Yep.
Which I thought was extreme.
To say about it.
Anyone who has a problem with it, you just kill them too.
Yep.
And then you kill the face, and then the face, he spawns little faces, and that's real disturbing. I don't know, man. This game's weird, and you know why I think this game was allowed to be so weird? And it's not because they didn't get paid any money, like Charles Barkley. Shut up and jam guy Dan. It's because this game was publicly funded. At least partially publicly funded. Billy, were you able to find the name of the fund?
I am trying to find it, but I got a name.
It's some sort of creative
fund. It might
fund.
not have been the right name. I got Sodesco.
No, that's not it. So
not it.
There's I wish I had the name, but it's because this game was made by some Dutch developers. That the Netherlands is Dutch, right? I'm right on that, right?
I don't know.
Well, they are from the Netherlands. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that.
I think you are.
So. There's a creative fund for electronic art and installations and that sort of thing. I actually looked at it because I saw a fund, like some sort of grant in the initial credits. And this game, I guess, got a grant for, being Netherlands-made art.
Mm-hmm. Well, the dev team too. I apologize. I'm not going to butcher the guy's name, but the one guy is a self-taught programmer and game designer. And I think, by no means am I suggesting it's amateurish or anything, but I think the sort of strangeness, let's be a little bit more positive, the uniqueness of the game can partially be attributed to that self-taughtness.
Yeah, and it's made with Game Maker Studio, which is a pretty nice tool for 2D game design. I've played with it a little bit myself. So it's definitely... It's crazy to see how many features they were able to cram into this thing. But I wonder if some of it was just that because they had public funding, they didn't have to make a commercially as successful, or they had a little bit more latitude to get weird.
Yeah, divorced from sort of the impetus of profit.
Yeah, or at least with a lot of help in the direction of profitability.
I mean, I don't know if that was good for them. I think they might have had a little bit too much leeway.
They might have, but man, when that face vomited mud. When I saw that face, I was like, yeah.
Where is this going?
This is weird in a way I can get behind. Is that a human face? Are humans in this game now?
Well, there is a brief mention of humans. Did you go? So there's one area we haven't mentioned yet, the theme park.
I didn't go to the theme park.
You didn't go to the theme park.
Did I fuck up?
Wondersplank?
Wondersplank, yeah. Wondersplank, so there's nothing really important about Wondersplank. But there are like some funny things. Like that's what I'm saying. You could do a lot of stuff that has nothing to really do with the main narrative, and Wondersplank is where a lot of that goes down.
I'm actually here right now.
Yeah, it's boss. One of the things you can do is stand in line.
I'm doing that right now, Pete.
Yeah. So like you can't cut in line for these rides. You actually have to stand in line and wait. And the rides are like they're pretty anticlimactic in a way that makes it kind of fun. Like you have to stand in line this whole time for them. But there's a fortune teller who tells a whole bunch of fortunes, and one of the fortune he tells is about a giant watching the Wuppo, and like it's very clearly a sly sort of dig at the player, which is funny.
Yeah,
this
It's
game's
very
weird.
meta. This game's super weird.
I like it though. This game
So
would have been
do
a
I.
contender for Game of the Year 2016. If we
It
had
definitely
played
would have been.
earlier.
It would have been a contender for worst twist though, as well.
Yeah, because I didn't
Like
like
this
the
is-
light bulb creature and his explanation of the nature of reality.
Yeah, this is Sonic Chronicles level twist right here.
Yeah.
It's just Wuppo's always he's so happy, like he's always smiling all the time.
He's always down for whatever weirdness is happening. He's like, yeah.
Oh man, it is a great game. Like for all its sort of strangeness and terrible second half twists, it's just fun.
I don't know if you guys can see my screen now.
I can.
Are you in line?
I'm waiting in line at Wondersplank for
Great.
the Ferris wheel.
Great.
Do you think just like pure fun has been overlooked in game development?
Well, hang on, Pete. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I think some of that's the game we pick. We self-select.
That's right.
We talked about this when we did Game of the Year 2015.
That's true.
When we came down to the Game of the Year, which was Vault's Story Abyssal City.
I remember that. I remember when
Sure.
Baldur's Story Abyssal City won Game of the Year 2015.
Yeah, me too. It's actually my highlight of the year.
Yeah.
We also had this discussion for Game of the Year 2016 when Game of the Year Final Fantasy IX was up against runner-up Pokemon Snap.
True. Very true. We have it. This is a recurring theme in our podcast. I like this through line we've developed.
That a game should be judged by how fun it actually is sometimes. Even if maybe a particular mechanic isn't good, but like injecting fun into the game can sometimes carry the
Take it
torch.
as-
I think that's like I want to criticize Wuppo on the grounds that like it introduces, like I said, like it introduces the genocide thing it never really deals with. It introduces the blinds as sort of a primitive race in a way that's sort of problematic as
and the
well.
and the Fnackers and their moniker of primitiveness is playing drums.
Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff going on here that's sort of unsavory. But like even as I want to make this criticism, I feel like it's unfair. Like I'm challenging Wuppo on grounds that aren't like that the game's not, I don't want to phrase this is a terrible description of what I'm saying.
What if it's not operating on those levels, so you feel
Yeah.
bad calling it out that way?
I'm trying to grade Wuppo by genre conventions that it's not part of. Like if you try to grade a comedy based on like horror movie genre conventions, it's not going to succeed. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I think that some of it is just, yeah, if you're going for like this almost Saturday morning cartoon-esque level of whimsy, you're not necessarily held to the standards of a grimdark, serious thing that's targeted at, you know, the most serious of adults who are down for, you know, postmodernism and shit. But also this game deals with like the soul in a weird way, and like
Right.
it has all these crazy ideas about communism and socialism.
I know, like it's a weird mix. But do you think too, like I almost feel not that it's a cop out, but like it's easy for Wuppo to sort of like let's like the blinds, right? If we just start there, right? And we sort of do this. this sort of noble savage sort of trope, right? For Wuppo to introduce that sort of trope and then be like, yeah, but we're just making a simple, fun game, so don't worry about it. It's equally sort of unsavory to hand wave away these things in that way too. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I think that criticism is totally there. Like, I think the Fnackers, killing the Fnackers and, like, having them play these drums and, run around in mud and sticks.
Right. And a whole, like, sort of like, game-based society.
Yeah. And have them be, like, surrounded by all this grossness.
Yeah. I mean, they're not cannibals, but they do try to eat you as a wum. At least that chef. It's like it's a strange mix of, the simple, the fun, the whimsical, sort of the more complex in the way we're sort of trying to read Popo City at the very least, and very obviously in the sort of metaphysics they introduce later. So you can't sort of operate at these levels simultaneously, right? It's either all relevant or it's all irrelevant.
Yeah, and this game definitely, it plays around with a lot of stuff that if you really want to go to the ends of the earth on describing it, you can take it to task for, but ultimately it doesn't really... I don't know. It doesn't go dark enough to really make me want to critique it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's hard to draw that line of, like, okay, like, here's what we're going to overlook taking the game on its own terms. And here's what's important enough for us to recognize and critique.
Yeah. So, is there anything else anyone else wants to get to? Because I think that's just about it for me and Wuppo.
No, I mean, it's a game. I'm happy I picked it. I was disappointed in some ways, but it also fulfilled exactly sort of what I wanted to see in a lot of others.
And that means I think it is Billy's turn to pick again.
I think you're right.
Billy, are you there?
No, Gino, I am not here. Unfortunately, my PC crashed, and I was dropped from the call, and I am now editing in my pick for next week. The game that I'm going to choose is Hyper Light Drifter. So that's a game that's been on my to-play list for quite some time, and I will enjoy picking a cool game for the podcast, and at the same time scratching off one of my games off of my long list of games that I have to play off of my Steam library. I have like maybe 15 or 20 games that are just in the queue. But this week it's Hyper Light Drifter. As for Wuppo, I had a fun time playing Wuppo. I didn't get as far as I would have liked to in this game. But everything that I played, I liked. I could very easily see myself finishing Wuppo and even going for some completionist stuff. Just my general overarching thoughts is that I like how character interactions were handled in this game. I like how collectibles were handled in this game. I think that the combat was a little simple, some cases too simple, but I think the just sheer fun and humor and lightheartedness carries this game pretty damn far, and for that, I'm going to give it a solid recommendation. And I would say Wuppo's definitely worth picking up, especially if it comes on sale on Steam. Definitely grab it. Plenty of playtime, lots of good hours to put into this game. So yeah, that's my last thought on Wuppo. But the next game that we're going to pick is Hyper Light Drifter. So I'll look forward to playing that.
So thank you, Billy. Thank you, Pete.
Always a pleasure. Thank you guys for joining in. I recommend Wuppo. I do.
Yeah, I do as well.
Fun game,
it's fun and weird.
Something lighter. Yeah. Not everything has to be super heavy, especially these days.
And I'd like to thank our listeners. Remember, you can get in touch with the show at deeplistenspod, deeplistens.libsyn.com, or deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. And you can always go ahead and rate us on iTunes. That's a good thing to do. 5 stars. That's the one you want.
It's all the way to the right.
Yep. Till next time. Peace!